We kind of need a revolution. Welcome to a special edition of the Club of Rome podcast, exploring how we can work together across generations, across continents, across contexts to mobilize action for a regenerative future. I am Nolita Mvunelo, Program Manager of the Club of Rome, and in this episode, I had a conversation with someone I am proud to call a friend, Sishii, actor, R&B singer, heard by millions, based in South Africa and changing the world. Against a backdrop of all the concerns we are facing, we discuss the role of art and music in inspiring young Africans to make a difference in the face of adversity. Dobego, thank you so much for joining me and joining me in my world of big picture and asking big questions and asking about the future of humanity and society, but also the future of us as Africans. Other people won't know this, but you're partly responsible for why we're doing this limited series because you're the one who said, yo, we always have these interesting conversations. Why don't you sit down and try to have more conversations with more interesting people? So I'm very grateful for you taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you for having me and thanks for doing it.
I have like a handful of questions that also again are very reminiscent of some of the conversations we've had. The
Yeah.
first one being we we always share a sense of like there's concerns about the future of South Africa, the future
Yeah.
of Africa, and our place in making a difference in those concerns.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the time the conversation is um, about leadership. It's about what we as young people are doing currently for, our country, our continent, our world, and what we're trying to do to make things better for this world. Um, and I'd say that the concern, it's like there's so many facets of life. Obviously, there's the economy, there's politics. Um, I'm an artist, so there's the future of the arts, and we kind of cover a lot of those subjects, in the conversations that we have. But I think in all of those subjects, the primary concern is what we're doing to make things better because we recognize that something's definitely wrong.
When you say what we're doing, do you feel like there is enough opportunity to do things?
I think a lot of our conversation is about how we feel like those who do have the opportunity to do something aren't actually doing anything. And those who don't have the opportunity to do anything are not even really considering um, what possible changes there are or could be. And in terms of what I'm doing, I'm just doing what I love, which is being an artist and inspiring other artists, inspiring young people according to them. Also, this is not I'm not saying I'm an inspiration. I've been called one on a few occasions. Yeah, inspiring African artists to pursue their dreams of being artists and inspiring Africans in my little corner of the world, which is South Africa, um, to just believe in themselves, to believe that they can come from circumstances that aren't necessarily great and make a change in the world and try and do positive in the world. So yeah, I think that's what I'm currently up to, and I hope I'm doing well at it.
Do you think you have a sense of what does it take to inspire someone who feels that they don't have enough opportunity to rise to leadership or to make like groundbreaking, world-changing art?
It's weird, but like as an artist, it's when your intention is to inspire and you create from wanting a certain reaction, right, from certain people. It doesn't really work as well as when you're being true to yourself. Um, it doesn't work as well as telling your story in the best way you know how with whatever it is that you have. Um, and so what I've learned is this road for me has just been about storytelling, and using whatever resources I can find, gather people. It's a people's business. Um, yeah, just essentially using all of that to tell my story. And in the process, I found that there are people who find that inspiring, because if you have gone through hardship and you're talking about it, I'm pretty sure there's someone out there, at least one. I mean, there's billions of people in the world, and surely there's one if you just stay true to who you are. So that's been my journey of what I've been trying to do. And I've found that I've inspired people in the process, but I didn't kind of start my journey saying, oh, I want to inspire people. I just wanted to express myself. And I found that a lot of people just want to express themselves and they really struggle to do so.
I think you've hit like a very important point on authenticity, because like as I started our conversation, I said welcome to my world. This podcast, but also a lot of the things that the Club of Rome and the New Generational Contract are working on, are very much concerned about the question of leadership, but leadership specifically when it comes to climate change and sustainability and the types of decisions that people are making. You make a point about storytelling and also authenticity being important for how to bring forth that messaging and that voice. But very often, I feel that it doesn't land. But from your perspective, when it comes to like the concerns about climate and the risks that we're facing, do you feel that it's being the storytelling is being effective? And if you do, what is effective about it? If you feel that it's not being effective, what do you think could be done to improve it from your perspective as an artist?
So I've not found a lot of artists talking about climate change. So it's interesting. I don't think we take it as seriously as it is. I really don't. Um, as a result of that, I don't see much art talking about that. Um, and I don't see a lot of people my age talking about climate change or even really thinking about it. There are people who think it's a lie. There are people who think, and a lot of the time you ask those people why they think it's a lie, they go, ah, it doesn't make sense. You go, have you read anything about it? It's like, no, I haven't actually read anything about it. I just think it's a lie. So there's this weird kind of choosing of sides without having any information on which side you're choosing, but saying, okay, it seems like there's a side I have to choose, so I'm just going to choose the side without actually figuring out why I'm choosing said side. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, actually.
I feel like as you're speaking in my mind, I immediately thought, I don't imagine a song about climate and like like a song about climate and like would it hit like the Spotify 1 million streams or Apple Music, like
Yeah.
would it hit?
I mean, the only person I can think of who ever did stuff like that was like Michael Jackson.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Heal the World or something.
yeah, I mean, this is my kind of perspective on life in general right now, which is that I think we have become a lot more self-absorbed. Not necessarily in a negative way, but a lot of the time it does show up negatively in that when it comes to um, a change that inspires or affects more people than yourself, or more people that do not actually include yourself. We're not finding people not being interested in doing that anymore.
When I imagine like a challenge that's as big as climate, right, which requires collaboration on such a broad level, but also requires collaboration across different cultures and perspectives. One of the best ways to share values and perspectives in culture is in our art, right? So the role of art in making sure that everyone is involved in this big group project is incredibly significant. But for some reason, we are struggling to imagine that we could get 1 million Spotify streams on a song about climate. So
Right?
so how
It's
do we
it's
make it, yeah, so how do we make it happen, right?
mm,
Is there something about, maybe it's where we understand the innovation comes from, like, not to quote him, but we know who said listen to the kids, bro. And
yeah,
he was making a very specific point about the tastemakers or young people.
yes.
Yeah, so I guess, is in your creative process, is there any like consultation that you do about like with the people who listen to your music and care about your music? Do you ever try to get a sense of like, this is what is interesting, these are the topics people are listening to, or is it very much like me and my creative process?
I would love to say absolutely not. I would love to be an artist who's so, self sufficient that people's opinions don't actually matter to me. I do subconsciously, um, I definitely subconsciously digest what people are thinking about and talking about. And sometimes it does affect my music. I'm trying to make that less of a thing now. I think I'm doing better at that, but it's really hard. I think the kind of thing about being an artist is like you've really got to be self-sufficient. Don't care about what people think. Don't care about what people are talking about. It's very weird because I believe that if this was, I don't know, 50 years ago, and every artist was talking about climate change, and every artist was talking about how the world is, oh no, I do feel like I'd be singing about that too. Um, Maybe, perhaps, but yeah, I think now the goal is to talk about yourself and what you're going through and your own emotions, and um, so I have tried to not engage with what people are thinking about my music and their opinions. So yeah, it's not really collaborative. It's not like I collaborate with people to try and find out what the world is thinking about and then make songs that are in line with that. I no.
Maybe it's time, like even like political music, like in the last election, did it pass your mind?
But the issue is that when I was very collaborative with people, as in, hearing their opinions, a lot of my music was actually a lot more self-absorbed because that is what's, you know, if we're talking about like listening to the kids right now are primarily talking about, hey, I'm like going through this. Hey, there's this that happened with this person and this girl or whatever. My peers, the people I make music with, and no one's ever brought up climate change. And so it's like, even so, if I were to listen to what people are talking about so that I can make music about what people are talking about, it would actually take me further away from politics and climate change. I found that it's my own proactivity in wanting to be involved in politics and voting, and that has made me go, no, man, I've actually got to be more concerned with what's happening in the world.
Is it fair to say your genre, is it like more pop, or would you say like what's your primary? Because I mean, but also you do a
Alternative.
lot of things alternative.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
alternative.
yeah. Because I was gonna say like a lot of South African jazz does speak about politics, right, in the state of affairs. But then again, like on that whole listen to the kids, bro, part of it, how many of our peers actually listen to South African jazz is yeah, there's not that many people, or
Yeah.
even just the tradition overall over time, like in the 60s and stuff, there was all of like this, but it was called it's retrospectively it's called protest music and not just
Yeah.
like music of the time.
Music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I guess like, does that, do you ever think about that, like as an artist, of how will I be categorized over time with the message that I've had and how people have received it?
Interesting. That's a deep question. I've never thought about that. I've actually never thought about how I'll be remembered, I guess. Yeah, but I don't think they were making protest music. I think they were making music. They were just telling the truth about what was going on. And then now in hindsight, we're like, oh, that was protest music. Oh, that's, you know, um, yeah, I've not thought about how I'll be remembered, but I remember once trying to write a song about the state of politics. It was so bad. It was such a bad song. It was so bad. Um, and,
Why
and
don't you
and that's
release
the
it? Let's do like a
no
limited release, like a
no
Club
no
of
no.
Rome special protest.
I'm an artist at the end of the day. I want to make good music first. Um, and so there's this weird kind of dilemma I find myself in, where when I am talking about the things that really, really matter, I'm like, this kind of sounds, I don't know, tacky, corny. I don't know.
Like a sermon.
Yeah, like a sermon, and there's even this category of rappers called corny rappers, um, who talk about like serious issues. Um, we have like a Kendrick Lamar who is
I was gonna say,
phenomenal,
yeah.
right? He found that like kind of, I'm going to talk about the things that really matter, and I'm also going to talk about, um, and I'm also going to make good music. And it's so rare to find that, because a lot of people who do talk about the things that matter, you're like, this is not really a good song.
Yeah. Because then you're
Yeah,
not a rapper, you're a conscious rapper. If you don't have
exactly,
the skill level of a Kendrick to, to speak about like significant things, loop in some jazz, etc., then it goes from Pulitzer Prize winning to you're on the conscious rap playlist on Spotify, which has significantly less plays than like the Atlanta hip hop play.
exactly.
Yeah, okay, I get what you mean.
Yeah,
But you're not only a musician, Into, you're also an actor. So,
yeah, yeah.
movies and TV shows about politics and climate and all of the things that we're concerned about. Is there opportunity there? Does it suffer from the same struggles that you were speaking about when it comes to music?
So interestingly enough, in South Africa, things that like films, series, whatever that has to do with crime is like always going to be the top hit. And we're aware of the fact that crime is a serious issue in our country. What I found on that side of things is that this young, well, let me not say this whole generation. I don't know the whole generation, but the kind of pocket, the circle I'm in of people I know, of filmmakers, are kind of tired of that. They're kind of tired of, why does every South African film have to be about, the serious issues? And that's the only time we're ever taken seriously. And as it's like, even the feeling that like as Africans are only rarely taken seriously by the West when we're talking about the plight of Africans. But there's a lot of joy in being an African. That when that is spoken about, it doesn't get as much attention, because it's like, no, no, you're sad, you're, angry because of crime and poverty. So it's very interesting how there are real issues in the world that need to be tackled in art. But what we're finding is, over time, people are deliberately trying to not tackle those things because they're tired of only being taken seriously when talking about those issues. So that's what I found on the film side of things.
As you're speaking, I was thinking about Black Panther, and remember how excited we were
Yeah.
when Black Panther was coming in. And I guess like if I tried to like put deep thought into it, was like one of the first few times where it was movie about African identity that was actually more about like the success and the opportunity, and
Yes.
not a movie about, as you're saying, organized crime, which is typically the
Organized
stuff that comes
crime,
out
the
of.
fly on the
Yeah, yeah,
cliff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The stuff that comes out of there. And I guess like the US equivalent is like not every movie has to be about Jim Crow and slavery.
Hmm.
Um yeah, like black people are capable of being in movies about being at an office because we have jobs too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but okay, let me get out of the the radical part, because next thing I'll speak for 10 minutes about that. And I think, I mean, but Black Panther was what, like 6 to 8 years ago. And since then there has been some.
Sheesh.
Yeah, we're that old. Yeah. Um, there,
Please don't remind me. Oh my word, that's crazy.
yeah. And I mean, there has been some shift somewhat, but again, I'll take you back to, I'll say, my world, and say outside of like the DiCaprio documentaries and the Zac Efron documentaries, etc. Oh, there was also The Boy Who Chased the Wind. That was interesting. But like I don't yet see a mainstreaming of the challenges that come with like nature crisis and climate and the storytelling that comes there. But I think it also has like an effect of like the listen to the kids bro part and the authenticity we're speaking about on whose stories are we telling. Yeah.
On that, what I have heard from
Hmm.
some people, right, is we've got more serious issues to deal with in Africa
then
than
then the
climate
nature
change. Like,
crisis.
yeah, I
Oh,
don't have time to think about nature right now, because how am I going to feed my child?
Okay, fair
How am
enough.
I going to think about, you know, I don't care about how much, I wish I knew the names of the chemicals. I don't even know the names of the chemicals that are ruining the world, but I don't have time to think about that because, I'm starving. I need a meal tonight. My child needs to eat tonight. So that's the least of my worries.
But okay, we're from Durban. And
Yeah.
for context, Durban is a city on the east coast of South Africa, and it's a very tropical city, so we get a lot of rain. And so flooding has become, a biannual event. Like twice a year, there will be like
Yeah.
catastrophic floods
Ish.
in the city. So Durban is one of those few
Yeah.
places where even if you met a homeless person in the street and you said, "Hey, climate change," they would probably be like, "Yeah, climate change, hey." So that's an example of where this issue is like prevalent and pressing for everyone, young, old, etc. People are losing their homes, and all that sort of stuff. But I'm yet to see a telenovela about a family that went through a flooding crisis, and we've been having these for over 5 years.
Yeah.
So maybe that's your next role. Your next role is
I
young
could fund
man
that movie.
from
I could definitely fund that movie for sure. I mean, it's about my hometown. You're right though. Like you're very right that it's happening in our own hometowns. Like this is happening at home. I'm hearing about this every single year, multiple times a year, and it's just like, yeah, it'll pass. It'll pass. It'll pass. Um, and yeah, I think that's concerning.
yeah, and we're full circle into the first point you made about leadership, and the opportunities for leadership, and where young people believe that there's an opportunity for them to lead. Because again, on the Durban example, we also know that like the two examples that you gave, that those who have opportunities are using them, but probably not for these types of concerns. And then you have everyone else who's not aware of what opportunities are available to them. Um, and I guess that was a statement, but my question is more about, from your perspective, how do we listen better to the kids, but give more opportunities to the kids to share their perspectives and maybe make a better Durban, a South Africa, and Africa for themselves?
I do think that this all kind of starts with self, right? Like I know that I could be using my platform to talk about these things, but I'm thinking about, my bottom line, and I think that's what it comes down to is each one of us who has the platform and the opportunity to give opportunities, instead of thinking about our own bottom lines, providing opportunities for others. I think that's where it stems from. That's where it starts. But there's the short term and the long term kind of payoffs. And we're always thinking, if I'm going to be concerned with what I'm saying today that can hopefully have a long term effect on people, um, by providing them opportunities, I'm going to lose my opportunities. Um, so that's where it all starts from. But I do think that there's also a serious mental shift that needs to take place. I mean, we've spoken about this before, where there is a kind of general pessimism, um, in our generation, including myself. I mean, I've admitted to this to you as well before, that I'm like, dude, why are you so motivated to make a difference in the world? Personally, I'm like, bro, it's all going down, and I don't, I think that we can try, but I don't think anything's gonna get better. um so I guess it is shifting that perspective.
A quote that I read yesterday was Wangari Maathai's Nobel lecture speech, where she says her wish for young people is that they invest in the long term. So, like to the point you're making about like the short term gains, there's long term things we could gain. Yeah, the investing in the long term part is so important, because at the end of the day, then what is it for? Final question for you: what gives you hope? Because for me, if my faith has a lot to do with it, I kind of keep a perspective that I am here for a reason. I have the opportunities I have for some reason.
Yeah, my response is, believing in God, believing in that there's something greater than this world, because, um there have been a lot more times in my life where I've been more pessimistic about this world than I'm optimistic. I still struggle with my optimism in this world because I'm like, I don't, I don't think people are going to get any less you know, absorbed, even when I look at myself. And so I'm like, I've got to believe there's something greater than this. That's ensuring that everything is where it should be, everything is in the right place right now, and we're okay, because there's a greater purpose for everything else. So, yeah, it's my belief in God.
Thank you, Sishi. And thanks for listening to the Club of Rome podcast. For more information, please visit clubofrome.org.